Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Busy news today at Old Trafford, as it always is, especially after United have been beaten and especially after we've been beaten heavily. So let's just get started into the news then. So yeah, first bit of news today is coming in from Jim Ducker. Ducker writes for the Telegraph, definitely a tier 1 source whenever Ducker speaks about United and especially the inner sort of workings of the club. We listen, and what he's come out with today is something that myself and I'm sure a lot of other fans have felt this way for a long time, is that Ten Hag has basically asked the board to pause handing out contract extensions just for the sake of it, just to keep players tied down to deals, keep the club, keep that valuation for the financials, keep it for the balance sheets. So this is something that we've definitely needed at the club for a long time, and yeah, we'll just get into this here now. So we can see here, Ducker is saying that Ten Hag has told United's hierarchy not to dish out any deals until he determines who warrants them. This is what we want to see. This is what we want. We want contracts based on performance, based on availability, and this is something that we've needed for a long, long time at the club. This is a policy that came in under Ed Woodward, where we would hang on to players and just give out deals for the sake of them, constantly increasing wages, and it has caused financial ruin at the club. It has messed up so much. We have the biggest wage bill in the Premier League, and yeah, I mean, you can see how far away we are from the best team in the Premier League from yesterday, but yet we're paying more per week for our players. So I think what is most important about this, and Ducker has put this here in the brackets, he has said this is not a post-derby position or reaction from the manager. This is a culture he wants at the club, and this is exactly what we want. This is exactly what we need. We need contracts given out based on merit, not just because you got 12 months in your deal and the Glazers are looking at it and thinking we should give this guy a 3-4 year contract, keep him at the club, keep his wages there. And yeah, I mean, it's just not how you run a club. And these are supposedly meant to be great businessmen. They run it, the club is a business, they run it as a financial institution. Like, this is crap business, this is crap for the team, this is crap for the club, and this is not what we have needed at the club, and this is so refreshing. This is so good to see. I think you look at the players who we've gave contracts to in the past who completely do not deserve it. We could have got rid of Phil Jones. We could have got rid of Ashley Young earlier. Eric Bailly was given a contract when he shouldn't have been. Marcus Rojo has been given contracts. We give Bruno a contract even though we had 3 or 4 years left on his deal. Regardless, we just wanted to bump up his salary, which, I mean, why are we doing this? Why are we running the club like this? I mean, this just does not make sense. And if this here starts to create a culture of hungrier players at the club, then this is exactly what we need. This is exactly what the club needs to do, and they need to listen to Ten Hag on this. They need to back Ten Hag. They need to back him over the likes of Richard Arnold, who have imposed and seen this policy carried out throughout their time at United. And I mean, where's the incentive for our players to work hard? At other clubs, when players don't perform, they're let go of. At other clubs, they're sold. But what do? We go, no, we don't care. You've been playing bad for years. You've been injured constantly. No, we don't care. We'll just give you a 4-year deal. We'll pay £150,000 a week, and we will never be able to get rid of you. And we've seen that with so many of our players, and it's just not good enough. And it's just reached a tipping point where we need, as a club, to walk away from this policy, this model of the past, and this is just something that is unsustainable, and it is something that we just cannot have at the club anymore. So just carrying on here with Ducker's article, I think this is a really, really important point at the top here. It's just what we had been saying, is Ten Hag wants to move away from the previous culture at United and is keen to ensure players do not fall into comfort zones and that they have to earn their new contracts. And I think this is really positive. I think this is a really good move, and if the board back the manager on this, I think we're going to be better off for it longer term. We can see what the previous culture at the club has been. We've seen the players down tools, the down tools for Jose, the down tools for Ollie, and they just didn't play for Ralph Rangnick last season. Until we change the culture at the club, we are always going to be limited in what we can achieve on the pitch. Yeah, like we all seen over the summer, we've seen last year, we've seen how toxic, how lazy these players can be, and we need to move away from that. We need to cut power from the players. We need to give it to the management. We need to let the management decide who should be there, who shouldn't be there, who deserves a new contract, and who should be let go, who can be moved on, who can be sold. And I think that whenever we do that, we'll be in a better position for it. We can see it at other clubs. Players are let go of, but yet we hang on to players all the time. Yeah, I mean, like, we're always hanging on to players for far too long. We hung on to Juan Mata for many years, although he was clearly not playing. He very rarely featured. Phil Jones has sat in the physio's room for the best part of a decade at United. We've kept hold of the likes of Ashley Young. We've kept hold of the likes of David De Gea for far too long. And whenever we can move away from that model of just handing out contracts because they're expiring and creating a culture of work, of fight, a culture of hungriness at the club where players have to earn their place, I think we'll be better off short term and long term, just as I'd said earlier. So we also have a bit of injury news coming through today. We saw Raphael Varane leave the pitch after around 40 minutes. He was subbed off in the first half. Fortunately enough, it appears that it isn't a serious injury. He shouldn't be sidelined for an extended period of time. He will probably miss the next couple of matches, but you know, as the sooner we have the guy back, the better. We are down to Lisandro Martinez and Victor Lindelof as our only centre backs, so they'll be playing Thursday, they'll be playing Sunday, and without Maguire, without Varane, we have no rotation options at all as centre back. Yeah, I mean, this is just another consequence of the lack of squad depth that we had. We let a lot of players go in the summer. We didn't bring enough in to replace them, and based on previous injury records, especially with Varane, we've seen this last year. If Varane is injured, we're down to 3 centre backs fit, and Lindelof can get injured, or Martinez can get injured, or Maguire gets injured. We're gonna be stuck, and it's important that in January, in the summer, that we back the manager, we give him more players to work with, and we avoid situations where we're going to be running in to playing the same 2 players at centre back or midfield or up front at all times, because players are just going to get burnt out. They're not going to get the rest that they need, and we're going to suffer as a team for it. So just to back this up, we have Samuel Luckhurst of Manchester Evening News writing today that Raphael Varane's injury is not expected to keep him sidelined for a long period of time. Again, we can see Luckhurst's sources have described Varane's injury as not bad, but we are being cautious due to his injuries in the first season, and I think that's something that we need to manage well. Varane is a sensational defender, sensational footballer whenever he is playing, but he can only be that footballer for it. He can only be that player on the first whenever he's fit. If he's injured, there's no point playing him. I remember last year, I think it was under Ollie, Varane picked up an injury. We rushed him back. We played him against Spurs on the Sunday, and we played against Atalanta away in the Champions League during midweek. We've seen what happened. Varane got injured again, and we suffered because Varane is one of our very best defenders when he's fit, but he can only be our best defender whenever he's fit, and that's just the issue we're running into with Varane. We cannot overplay the guy. We have to manage him, and with the current squad and the current level of depth, we just can't do it. We just don't have the options. And I think until we do, we're going to struggle. We seen yesterday, City had Laporte and Diaz on the bench, their best defenders, They also had John Stones injured, and yet they were still able to play Nathan Ake and Akanji. I know that we're not at City's level, but if we had some competent defenders that we can put in, I think we'll be a better team for it. But I think as well what we are struggling with, we need not just depth, we need depth that really helps the team out. City's defenders yesterday didn't damage the system. The system still played the way it should be played. The system still worked. And we don't just need players, we need players to fit the system. And I don't think we have that. I don't think Maguire's a great fit for the system that Ten Hag wants to play. I don't think Lindelof's a great player for the system Ten Hag wants to play. And I think Martinez and Varane work very well in that system, but we can't rely on Varane. So we're going to have to play players who don't fit the system just because they're the only player we have, and that's just not good enough for us. That's just not going to work long term, and we need to back Ten Hag, we need to back our manager, we need to give him the players he wants across the squad, not just the starting 11. He needs the full squad to be in his image of where we should be playing football. So, just another news, we have seemingly confirmation coming out from Sky Sports News, other outlets, other reporters, and it's kind of just what we all imagined was going to happen, especially with what's happened this season, and that looks like Donny van de Beek is going to leave Manchester United, and he could leave in January. We always thought with Donny, if he was going to make it, if Van de Beek was going to make it at United, it could be under Ten Hag, and Ten Hag hasn't played him. He hasn't picked him. He's barely been in the squad, and I just don't think it's going to happen for Van de Beek at United. I think it'll probably be in the interest of all parties that he moves on. Yeah, I mean, I had a lot of hope for Van de Beek, especially this season. I thought he could have been useful. I still maintain that if we use Van de Beek and we play him, we can rest one of Bruno or Eriksen. Bring in Van de Beek, give one of them a rest, and you can rotate the squad, rotate the midfield. But Van de Beek hasn't been fit, and that's really cost him, especially going into this October. We have 9 games in October, and so far he hasn't been available. And I think maybe it is time that we move on and we start looking at further reinforcements. And yeah, maybe we could see the likes of Zidane Iqbal or Charlie Savage start to get a couple of minutes in the team. But it appears it's not going to be Donny van de Beek who makes it. And yeah, I mean, he had a lot of hope, a lot of promise when he came, but I mean, it's just worked out how it's worked out, and it probably is in the best for everybody just to move on and cut our losses and let him get on with his career, because we have took a couple of years off his career where he hasn't had a chance to develop. He's barely played, and it'll be in his best interest to get moving on. He won't be in the Dutch World Cup squad, and I'm sure that if he's not looking at the next international tournament, then he should be, and he should be looking for more game time, and a move probably suits everybody, just to summarise that point. So finally, we're having an awful lot of talk today coming out from various media outlets and various pundits about Cristiano Ronaldo, and I don't know, man, I just feel like when he's played this season, he hasn't looked good. He hasn't looked like he's fitted into the system. He doesn't look like he's what Ten Hag wants from his striker. And yeah, I mean, it hasn't been good. On the other hand, it's still Cristiano Ronaldo. This is one of the best players who's ever played the game. And, what do we do with Ronaldo? I mean, I'm not the United manager. I'm not Ten Hag. I can only give you my opinion. I think it would have been better for all parties. It would have been better for us, and it would have been better for him had he found a move and found a new club in the summer whenever he wanted to go. It didn't happen, and now seemingly he's not going to get back into the team. It looks like Rashford has certainly been ahead of him, and it now looks like Martial is going to be ahead of him. Martial had a great cameo off the bench yesterday, scored twice, and that'll probably give Ten Hag the vindication in his mind to continue leaving Ronaldo on the bench. And yeah, I mean, it is it's sad. Like, Ronaldo was our best player last season, scored a lot of goals for us in a really poor side, but I think maybe there comes a time when everybody needs moved on, and I think maybe this is the time to move Ronaldo on. So we'll see what happens. I think the World Cup will be interesting. I could see Ronaldo and his agent Jorge Mendes pushing for a move in January. I don't think he'll be here next season. I believe his contract runs out, but we have the year of extension that the club have the option to trigger. If going back to what we had previously said about Eric Ten Hag looking control over contracts, looking them to be earned, I don't think we'll offer one if Ten Hag has his way. But on the same hand, we have Joel Glazer upstairs. Joel Glazer looks at Ronaldo. He says this guy sells the most shirts, he sells the most merchandise, he's the biggest brand we have. Why would we let him go? So I can see a conflict of business and sporting needs coming to the club. I can see that coming. I can see a clash between Ten Hag and the Glazers and the board over this potentially. But yeah, I think it's probably in the best interests of everybody if Ronaldo moves on, but it's whether or not the Glazers let him move on. And I guess only time will really tell about that. We'll just have to see what happens. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it for the news today. We'll be back during the week with a preview for the Europa match on Thursday. Any other news or anything of interest we will bring to you. Keep an eye out on our socials, links in the bio. And as always, thank you very much for your support. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. Thank you.